what's up, sports fans, and welcome to the final week of the NFL season as things have really shook out in week 17, and we get into week 18, which is now becoming essentially an additional playoff week for some teams, but we're going to get into that. I think RPF has got some college football playoffs to cover a little bit of. Michigan's game was fantastic, by the way, but that's just a little tease in case you didn't know. And then we've got RPF's going to finish off with a little bit of Rafa update, per usual, and an interesting factoid. So, before we get into those things real quick, you can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, all the great platforms, as well as find us socially on Instagram and X, and of course, our dedicated YouTube channel. Just head to any of those platforms, and in the search bar, just type in sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF, and we should pop right up for your listening pleasure. RPF, my friend, without further ado, let's get into this. Without further ado, how you doing?
I am. I'm well. I survived the New Year's celebration 1,000 yards from my home for the ball dropping. That sounds like a rite of passage, but no, the Times Square.
It does.
Yes. We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about later.
in my political commentary I have for you.
Oh,
but,
boy, here we go.
No, not quite political. It's just like asshole alert. But anyway.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start with kind of like RPF asshole alert. It's going to be a new segment here or something. But anyway,
well, speaking of asshole alert, did you see that Aaron Rodgers was trying to be like cheeky and cool and funny and called out?
That's very much what I'm talking about. So thank you for stepping on my dick on that one. So we're starting off well, 2024.
All right, so I'll leave it.
And by the way, the Patriots lost, in case you haven't heard.
Yeah. Thank God.
All right, for you guys, right? All right. Anyway, by the way, I don't think you mentioned our YouTube channel, which is our marquee.
Yes, I did.
You did? Okay, then I'm just not paying attention.
I know I did because it's slammed into my brain at this point. It's just you can find us socially on Instagram and X, as well as our dedicated YouTube channel.
There we go.
It's like I go to the supermarket, I meet people. That's I'm like
that's your elevator pitch.
Jonah Bayless of Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. You can find us socially on Instagram and X.
Except your family member who still doesn't believe you have a co-host. Yes. Anyway,
I don't mention you. That's
exactly. Well, you will after this segment.
All right.
You will after this segment.
We're derailing.
Early.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. This is 2.5 minutes in. We've derailed. All right, here we go.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. All right.
Okay. I'm ready for you.
Okay. Let's jump in with a really quick recap. I think by now most people, NFL fans at least, understand what happened this past weekend as far as who won, who lost, and what that means for people. So we'll do a very quick recap for those that didn't follow along.
Sure.
With big games. And RPF, let's just start. I know you don't want to, but let's just start out of the gate with your Dolphins and Ravens.
That's the one game I didn't see at all, so I have no idea what. Look,
I can make it easy. I can make it easy for you.
Yeah, there's three things I want to say about it.
Okay, I'm just curious for Dolphins fans if this gives you distress going forward.
Mostly no, but maybe yes.
Maybe yeah. So real quick, for anyone that didn't see it, the Ravens beat the Dolphins 56-19, essentially solidifying Lamar Jackson's MVP race, I believe.
My God, intergalactic.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean
he's to the point where they're like, you know what, you don't need to play this weekend.
I want a full DNA panel to see if he's human or not, because it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's like at this point he's like part, cheetah or no, not cheetah, I guess, but another animal. Anyway, so there's three things I'll say about it. It was first of all, the headline is it was an old-fashioned spanking, up and down, sideways. The defense couldn't stop them once. It was one of those games that the only other game I can think of was this very team, Ravens, with a different Dolphins team a few years ago, scored 59 points against us. So for any real Dolphins fan, it's so shocking because it was so familiar to us. The other shoe dropped right when we thought this team was different. So that's the alarming part. The three things to say about it, and it sounds funny to say this after I just said that we couldn't do anything to stop them, but Tyreek Hill dropped the easiest touchdown pass anyone's ever dropped, which is unlike him. Although he did drop another one, a little more difficult one, in the first play of the game with the Cowboys. But this was in the end zone, a short touchdown. We had scored a touchdown. They had scored a touchdown. We were going down. We just scored a touchdown, and he dropped the ball. And then we settled for a field goal, and from then on, it just all the wheels came off. But that was, and the moment that happened, I said, something's up, and sure enough. Second thing I will tell you, the defense had no answers. I mean, yes, there's always injuries and everything, but they had no answer. Literally, everyone was 3 steps behind. It was so maddening. It is not Fangio, and in fact, when I looked at the latest episode of Hard Knocks in season with the Dolphins, and they kind of were prepping for this game, everything was like Fangio saying, "Man, that Lamar Jackson's he's quick, but the other people are quick, but he's different." And I'm like, "Okay, we get it. You have no idea what to do with him." Okay, sure enough. So great. It bodes great for the potential AFC Championship game. Can't wait for that.
Read between the lines. We have no idea what to do.
No, in every single room, the linebackers room, every room was like, "I don't know." Anyway, it was just like a very bad situation. And then, so it just doesn't give me confidence going into a potential rematch at some point. And then, but the thing that bothers me the most, and this is on McDaniel, and he's a different coach. I'm a huge fan of his. He's like the math nerd that became the football coach, right? He's so happy to be there. The players love him and love playing for him, all that. And he's a bit like Nadal, which you mentioned earlier, in the sense that every down matters, play hard every down, fine. But when you're down by 35 fucking points with 4 minutes left, don't leave your starting lineup in there. Why is Tua quarterbacking? Why is Bradley Chubb trying to stop a 200-yard game from a running back that has no impact? When in 6 days we have to play for the actual AFC East championship.
Yeah.
So I was literally 6 minutes left in the game. I'm screaming at the TV saying, "Why are these players in here? This is the very definition of garbage time. Literally, get your team off the field." And then within 3 minutes of my commentary to the wall and to the TV, Chubb is out for the season, which is arguably our most impactful offensive line edge rusher for sure. Now we have Jalen Phillips and Chubb, our 2 edge stars, out forever till 24.
Not forever,
but forever in the football world
for this year.
Yeah. Well, forever in the sense that wait till next year.
They're not here anymore. They died.
Don't say that. I'm very happy that Jalen Phillips, by the way, is following me now on Instagram. Thank you, Jalen Phillips. I'm a big fan. All right,
shout out.
And then shout out for sure. And then Tua, I don't know what taekwondo fall that was when he was scrambling for his life. He slid and then did like a frog, like a downward facing frog pose. His legs were splayed out like my cat, and they pushed him back. So of course his shoulder was hurt. I'm like, I literally almost hurled the TV off the balcony. So at that point, I just decided, McDaniel, that's rookie coach shit. Why is Chubb in there? Why is Tua in there? And he's like, and then Tua's, he's hanging over the both players that are hurt, saying, pep talking them. I'm like, get the fuck away from them, because they're pissed at this point at you, right. Rightfully so. So anyway, I want to see some accountability from McDaniel. So saying that was my danger zone. This game is such an etch-a-sketch that it has to be like this never happened, because it was so beyond the pale. It can't happen. So now, just a little preview of what's happening in a few minutes in our podcast. We're talking about the final week. Of course, every game was flexed and rearranged. Of course, now the Bills, the resurrecting zombies that they are, all of a sudden are playing the Dolphins on the last game of the season, Sunday Night Football, to determine who wins the AFC East. If the Dolphins lose, which, by the way, once again, and in some ways rightfully so, we're not favored to win, because the Bills are on a hot streak, as we all know. If we lose, we go straight to Kansas City. the Dolphins at KC. And if we win, we probably play the Jags or the Steelers or whomever else that other team is, or the Browns. So anyway, so that's going to be
Texans, I would imagine.
Culture Texans, right? The winner of that game, and then or possibly the Jags if something else happens with the Jags. Anyway,
yeah,
but the point is,
but the Jags are playing the Panthers. Like they're going to win. They're going to win that game.
So, right, exactly. If the Panthers came up, by the way, did you see the Panthers owner who threw the drink at the fan?
No.
Did you not see this? He got fined like $200,000. It was in the box at the visiting. He was playing whatever the Jaguars. The Panthers were playing the Jags. No, were the Panthers playing the Jags?
That's coming up, I think.
No, I think. Hang on, Jaguars played who?
They were in Nashville. Jaguars were in Tennessee.
Oh, Titans. They were?
Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry.
No,
that game's coming up. I'm sorry. You're right.
You're right. Yeah, Jaguars played the Panthers. Yeah. Anyway, the Jags owner sitting up in the skybox, but it's open air, and there's a shelf in front of him with his drink or whatever, and some Panther fans in his face saying, or whatever. Some Jaguar fan saying, "You suck," whatever. It was 26-0. So the guy, what a billionaire does, he just took his drink and threw it on his face. Cost him $200,000, or basically what he spends on a bagel for his family in the morning.
Good grief.
Anyway, so the Dolphins, McDaniel stepped in it, Chubb, Jalen Phillips.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, right? You're hoping that this is one of those quote unquote wake up games where you kind of get throttled and the team goes,
well, it has to be.
Shit.
I mean,
yeah.
In every aspect of this game, we were outplayed. Every aspect of this.
I mean, I remember, obviously it wasn't late in the season; it was early in the season. But I remember when the Patriots, Tom Brady era, when we got beat by the Chiefs like 42-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was when what sparked the whole is Tom Brady's career over? Is this done? Is it and then
no, I remember.
He stuck around for like another 6 years, and won 3 more
Super
Bowls.
That game, I remember that game because that was a game I couldn't believe. 6 passes he threw at the feet of Gronk and Edelman or something.
Awful.
I was like, what is happening? Yeah, it was like throwing it straight to the ground.
So hopefully,
by the way, speaking of which, a little preview, I can't wait for Tom Brady to start his 10-year, $350 million Fox broadcasting contract. And apparently he's in media training school.
Oh boy.
Bob Costas said, I don't know about him. And it's a lot of preparation for a game, and he maybe should be in the studio, a la Tim Tebow.
Anyway. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we had another big game last week, a Saturday game actually, the only Saturday game, and that was the Lions Cowboys. And once again, RPF, we're talking about the damn referees of the NFL.
Oh my God.
And this is a game. I didn't finish the game. I started watching it and then I went to bed.
I don't know how you do that when the game is so close. I would be like a nervous wreck trying to figure out what.
Well,
Well, you have to get up. So here's the thing. This is another game. Before we get to the officials, the game was basically out of reach because at the Cowboys had the ball with I think a minute something left, and somehow I turned it off at that point. And then I said, let me see what's happening. And then all of a sudden the Lions had the ball back and they were on the 13-yard line. I'm like, what? So I turned it back on. And you notice my high-pitched voice when I go, whoop. Anyway, so I turned it back on just in time to see the touchdown. And just in time for me to scream to Dan Campbell, don't go for 2. Give yourself a chance to win in overtime. And he went for 2. And then, do you want to explain it to them?
I don't know if I can explain it. It's like,
basically, okay. What happens is, if you hear sometimes you watch football and you hear the official say number 72 is eligible. What's the term? Is
eligible.
Eligible. Thank you. It's eligible. It's eligible. Unlike
a bachelor.
My English. Exactly. He's number 72 is a bachelor. He's eligible. All right. So throughout the game, 3 different times, he had the same one player, one of the offensive linemen checked in with the official as eligible. Dan Campbell, according to Dan Campbell and to the referees and to the NFL office, which, by the way, their response to this whole thing has been atrocious. The NFL, he told the officials a different offensive lineman, it's going to be used in a trick play or in a play, he's eligible. So there's apparently a hand signal and a verbal declaration from the player to the ref to make sure they know that they are eligible.
From my understanding,
that happened with the.
From my understanding, there doesn't even have to be a verbal. It's just the hand signal. You have to look at the ref and do this.
Right. No, but they went the extra mile. So the coach had told the sideline referee.
He told him,
player who was checking.
He told Dan Campbell told him before the game even started.
Before the game, but then at the actual moment, he told the sideline judge because he can't go to the huddle.
Yeah.
So he told the sideline judge, and the player that was eligible did the hand signal, which is like something like or something. Anyway, that's
two stripes down your
and
chest.
He also right, okay. And then he verbally told the guy. What confused the ref at the same time that the actual player that was going to be eligible or was eligible, the former offensive lineman that was eligible earlier in the game walked over to the ref and may or may not have said anything to him. So the referee's eye line was the player who's been checked in as eligible the whole time throughout the game was also near him. So he said that number was eligible, when in fact the other player was eligible. So what happens? Of course, the eligible player who caught the ball, to win the game, and all of a sudden the referee on the sideline, which, by the way, the female ref that was spoken to by Dan Campbell about this, went over to the head referee and said, he's not eligible. He's illegal touching. And they called it. So what happens? The NFL doubles down a day later. I don't know if you saw this. A day and a half later, they sent out like a 20-minute play moment by moment video, basically defending themselves, but as ESPN and NFL Network
it's like the Zapruder film of football.
It's a Zapruder film, yeah. But it's actually disproves their claim. Their narration of it is wrong. It actually shows that Dan Campbell and the Lions were indeed correct. Yeah. Anyway, so once again, we're sitting here waxing poetic on fucking officials. Why isn't this reviewed in New York? Why isn't every play? Why is every the fourth quarter should be no ref should be allowed to call anything. Go to the videotape or something. I can't. It's too many games, too much money involved, too much heartache involved. Too many mistakes.
And the part that you haven't brought up yet is let's do the scenario where the Lions win that game and they are now in the second seed, vying. Yeah. They would still potentially have a shot to be the number one seed.
Be the top seed.
Yeah, and so now you're going the poor Lions, right? Who are kind of like I don't want to say Cinderella story of the season, but they're a great story of the NFL league so far.
The Cleveland Browns and them would be, you can argue the Cleveland Browns
and now they're battling for like one home playoff game, and it's like it could greatly alter the course of their playoffs.
They're actually hosting a playoff game now. They're hosting. Yeah.
Here's the other thing that we can't be remiss about is that, to your point, like they score the touchdown, you're like, okay, Dan Campbell always goes for two. He's an aggressive guy, and he gets it.
I know.
But then they get the penalty, which pushes them back, and so now they've got I don't know what it pushes you back to. I don't know if it's 10 yards or 5 yards.
10 yards.
So now they've got either 7 or 13 or 12 yards to go, and they go for two again. That's when I was like, what are you doing? Yes, the penalty shouldn't have happened, but it did. And don't go for two when you have to get essentially 10 yards to get the 2 point. Just kick it. At that point, just kick it and move on.
Well,
but the ironic part is they go for two again, and then there's another penalty, which pushes them back up to the goal line.
And they were 1 yard short or something. Yeah.
And then they go for two again, and they don't get it. It was absolute mayhem. The refs were wrong, and that's all there is to it.
Madness. All right. I'm looking at the list of Week 17. Anything else stand out? The Chiefs and the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals were really Joe Burrow away from beating the Chiefs. They just needed a quarterback. And
big time.
I don't know if you saw that game, but the Chiefs
I will say this:
they didn't look good either.
I will say this in remarks to my Patriots. In who played the Bills. Now the Bills are headed up against your Dolphins for the AFC East title. I will say this: the Bills, they won, obviously, but I gotta say, if you watch that game, which I did, that game was absolutely handed to the Bills within the first 10 minutes of the game. We had 4 turnovers on hour 30 on the first 5 possessions. Every time we got the ball, we were just like, here you go.
You had a kickback, right? A kick return.
Yeah. So 27-21 is a little bit misleading in my opinion. So I don't know if the Bills were that dominant in that performance. So a little silver lining for you. That's all I'm saying.
Ahead, Well, let me tell you a very kind of, eyebrow raising factoid about the Patriots I just read. Since 2013, this is very interesting, and this kind of answers everything. Since 2013, which is 10 years, the Patriots have not re-signed any player they've drafted in the first 3 rounds since Belichick has been in charge.
Yeah,
Belichick,
he's garbage. He's a garbage GM.
Has killed Belichick. But the GM Belichick has killed Belichick, the coach.
Yes.
First of all, think about this: the top 3. There's literally minimally 3 per year. There's 30 players. The top players you pick, your 30 top players, and you don't re-sign them, not one, because they're not good enough or they don't turn out. That's all Belichick. I mean, he has to go. He has to go. If any other team signs him, say, look, you're going to be defensive coordinator. That's going to be your job. You're Fangio now. I don't know.
But I think that's the argument. It's not. Yes, Belichick, the GM, has to go. So the argument is, can Belichick, the coach, stay without GM responsibilities?
That's not. But can he handle not being in charge of that personnel?
I don't know. But to your point, if he goes somewhere else, if he coaches some other team, is the other team going to let him be the GM after they've seen what he's done in New England?
No.
Right. So
before they sign it, I'm going to send an anonymous tweet. Make sure they see this.
All right, let's move on to week 18. Go ahead.
The last thing I'll say about 17 is the shocking free fall of the Eagles.
To the Cardinals. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, and they're still, they're still in the playoffs, of course. But is it now 4 in a row that they've lost? They lost to the Cardinals?
5, I think.
No. So I think 4 or 5. But the Cardinals and Eagles in the I call it the Bird Bowl. They literally, and Kyler Murray just carried them across in the shocking victory. But
the Bird Bowl, in which an Eagle should be able to beat a Cardinal.
Funny, because when I was growing up in Miami, in our high school, near our house was Bird Bowl, because Bird Road was the street, and Bird Bowl was a bowling alley we all hung out in. So it's kind of like, I'm thinking Bird Bowl, like my 10th grade memories of next to the roller skating rink, of course, because and then next to the covered wagons parking lot. Anyway, but the Eagles, that's something to keep an eye on, because like we mentioned last week, I don't think the Eagles win around in the playoffs, and they were, a month ago they were the number 1 team in football. So,
yeah,
there you go. All right, week 18.
Week 18. So real quick, I'm looking at this to kind of set this up. I'm looking at this ESPN current playoff picture, and it has percentages for each team to make the playoffs, win the division, or make the Super Bowl. And I'm just looking at make the playoffs. And so the NFC is pretty locked up as far as this isn't seeding. Like they're there. They're going to play in the playoffs.
I get it.
49ers, Cowboys, Lions, Eagles, and Rams are all 100% in the playoffs.
I think the Rams play the Lions for sure, by the way.
So, which only leaves 2 openings. That's the 4 seed. That's going to be whoever wins the NFC South
The South.
And they have the Bucks still as the big favorite there at 71.5%.
The Bucks, if they win, they're in. Yeah, they win, they're in. Yeah.
And then, I think it's the Bucks that are playing the Panthers. That's why they're at 71. And then the 7th seed, they have the Packers there at 63.2%. And the only other teams in the hunt still are Seahawks, Saints, and Falcons, but they're way out of the outskirts. But the Seahawks,
I think the only.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, the Bucks are going to be in because they're going to beat the Panthers. So the Bucks are in. So they're basically the only team left. I think if the Packers win, they're in too. So basically, if the Bucks and Packers win, which are favored to win both games, they should be in. They're in the playoffs. So.
And then the AFC, real quick, we've got the Ravens, Chiefs, Browns, and Dolphins all at 100% in. The Bills are at 94.7% in. There is a scenario where they could. I saw this the other day where they could not make the playoffs. This game that they're playing, they can either win the AFC East or not even make the playoffs. A stretch, but not that far of a stretch because it has to do with either of I forget which team, one of the Colts or Texans losing. I forget which one. I think it's the Colts, and then the Steelers winning. Now, interestingly, the Steelers are playing the now Lamar-less Ravens this weekend. So who knows there? But
I wish the Dolphins played the Lamar-less Ravens.
So as far as the AFC goes, there's basically two big games. There is, of course, the Bills-Dolphins game, which is obviously massive implications. You're fighting for a 2 seed, really, which is huge, obviously. And then you've got the Colts and Texans are playing head to head. Yeah, are playing head to head for that spot. Yeah, that's going to be that's what when I at the opening when I referred to the playoffs actually start this week. That's the Texans and Colts are playing a playoff game. It's lose or go home.
Yeah, they are totally, and the Bills could be doing the same thing, if they don't beat the Dolphins. Did you see that? Quick aside, what's the quarterback guy's name from the Colts with the messy hair? What's his name?
Gardner Minshew.
What is his name? Minshew, and he was Minshew. He's been sacked a couple of times against the big stud defensive lineman from the Raiders, and every time he walks by him, the big lineman would tell him, "You're just a pussy boy." Anyway, he said it so many times that Minshew goes back to the his sideline. He goes, "Is it just me, or is he calling everyone a pussy boy?" and they're all like, "Not everyone."
That's funny.
He's like, "I may be small here, but I'm big outside of here." And then the receiver turns to the camera and says, "No one knows what that means." Anyway, it's pretty funny. But I just very funny that Minshew was
awesome.
All pissed. He realized after 7 times. Yeah, he was very funny. Actually, anyway, I mean, he's someone he inspired me to want to see more about his life because he's just really funny. It was like, wait, am I the only one he's calling a pussy? He just realized he's the only one he's being called. Anyway, it's pretty funny. All right. Okay, so week 18. Yeah, so Bills, Dolphins, and Texans Colts. I mean, are the Texans? Is the shine off the Texans now? Is CJ still?
I mean, I don't think so. Didn't they just win? Yeah, they just crushed the Titans.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So no,
that could be a good game. I mean, is that at Indianapolis? Is that Sunday?
That is Saturday night.
Early game. Oh, that's fun. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, oh gosh, I guess I'm not going out Saturday night. So that'll be a fun game. And then.
Yes, that'll be an excellent
game. By
the
way, what happens if could the Giants beat the Eagles to end the season?
I don't know, man. Jeez, that would be wild.
I mean, it's a division game, so that's always tougher. So And how much would the Giants love to beat the Eagles?
Well, of course, yeah, they absolutely love them. So let's see. Do the 49ers have the 1 seed wrapped up?
They play the Rams. Yeah. wrapped up, and they're
Okay.
resting everybody.
So they're resting everybody. Okay.
They're resting everybody. Here's the thing, and the Rams are also going to rest everybody because the Rams are locked in. Get this, the Rams, talk about a subplot. The Rams, with their quarterback, are heading to Detroit. Goff versus, what's his name?
No wonder the refs did that.
And to add further palace intrigue, Goff was completely shunned or kind of like overlooked for the Pro Bowl in favor of the Rams quarterback.
Ooh, interesting.
So that is, and Goff is having arguably a Pro Bowl year. And so anyway, it's a very kind of the subplot, right? I mean, of all intrigues, that's going to be I think to me the most interesting first round on any side of the aisle would be the Rams at Detroit. So that should be fun to watch.
Definitely.
And Nakua could have a breakout game with his hair flying.
Puka Nakua.
I can't wait for that Jacksonville Tampa Bay Buccaneer Super Bowl. It's going to be fantastic.
All right. So yes.
It's
So
like
basically,
a barn burner right there.
Yes. So basically, we've got essentially only two games really that are the like marquee games. The ones we just mentioned, the Bills Dolphins and the Texans Colts. Those have massive playoff implications. Outside of that, everything is fairly solidified. Even seeding is fairly solidified. So I believe RPF we can move on from the NFL at the moment.
Yeah, and just one last comment about the Bills and Dolphins.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last game of the season, it's fitting. It's basically the Bills have won 4 straight years as AFC East champions. They took over the mantle from the Patriots with Brady, of course, but won it for 15 straight years or whatever it was. The Dolphins haven't, I think, won it once in 20 years. So this is when it's time to, after all the noise, the distractions and the injuries and the dramas and the tears and me bellowing from the top of my lungs. This is it. This is how you strap it on and play football. And we have everything going for us. We're home field. This is a whole national audience. We know what's in front of us. Win and you go here. Lose and you go there. This is when you lay it on the line. Yes, we don't have 2/3 of our defense because of boneheaded choices that our coach made. But it's put up or shut up time. No more excuses.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. So I think it bodes well. I think I'm more relaxed about this game than I was about the Ravens. The Ravens, I knew it was going to be a disaster. And it was worse than I thought. But the Bills are a familiar foe. We beat them last year. We beat them 2 years ago in Miami. Let's go for a trifecta here.
Yep.
So yeah, so we're good with the NFL, I think.
All right.
Let's go into the most important weekend of college football, as you previewed earlier in the podcast.
Yep.
Michigan. First of all, to go back even further, we talked about this a bit when Florida State was passed over. The seeding, the top 4, only the top 4 college teams are chosen to be in the playoff. Now, when Alabama was chosen over Florida State, it was a huge controversy for a lot of people because Florida State, in fact, in many arguments, and by every metric, deserved to be top 4. Now, what's played out since then has borne out the fact that Alabama very much should have been chosen over Florida State because Florida State lost in historic fashion.
Yeah.
What was it? 65-3 or something? It was like insanity. They lost a bowl game that was basically I think the girls' soccer team showed up in pads or something because I could not understand how this happened. So Florida State, which by the way would have lost 100-0 against Michigan, with that team that they put out there, there's something about this selection that made sense. So Alabama and Michigan are playing. And Michigan, as you may have heard or heard something about, they've been under a cloud the entire year because of the allegations of cheating or spying on other teams, and that's still being resolved, and they've been suspended. So anyway, and the other cloud actually is that the Harbaugh brother, this college football brother, Harbaugh, just hired a new agent to go shop his ass around the NFL to join his brother in the NFL. So this could very likely be his last game as a Michigan coach. And the last game coming up, because Michigan, as Jonah mentioned, played a terrific game with Alabama. I mean, terrific. It was really good. And it wasn't college-like. It was just, but it wasn't pro-like either. It was just, by the way, there's two things about college still bother me. And I think, and funny, the announcers mentioned one of the things. Why is it still in 2024 that if you have an open, you're a wide receiver and you catch the ball and you fall down, the ball's dead there, without anyone touching you? That is so annoying, very annoying. And the second thing that's annoying, why? ¿Por qué is a 1 foot catch a catch in college, and you need 2 toe taps in pro to get the catch? Shouldn't it be the same rule? Just saying. ¿Por qué? Anyway, so that means why in Spanish. If you're wondering, your multilingualness, I know is just. But I'm just saying those are 2 things that, I mean, it just so, like the quarterback, for example, it came up because the quarterback for who's like an option type of quarterback for Alabama was really good. He just dropped the ball was hiked to him low, and he fell down for a second, and he couldn't pop back up to kind of very critical time of the game. Anyway, I think that has to be looked at. That's crazy. But Michigan came back and won a thriller over Alabama in overtime, which was really really great to watch. And awesome. It was. And by the way, how much better is college overtime than the NFL?
Way better. Oh way better.
Right? I mean, first of all, for those who don't know, college overtime, you get the ball, but both teams are guaranteed the full set of downs. You get the ball on the opposing 25-yard line, and to see what happens. You kick a field goal, you don't score, whatever happens. Then the other team gets it, and if they do the same, you keep playing. It's so good. It's a bit like baseball. Finally figured out in extra innings. Put a runner on second. Let's see what happens. I think that's great. Yeah. That's exactly what the fans love. It's like basically skipping the overtime period in soccer and going straight to penalty kicks. Great. That's what people want. All right. So anyway, that was the Michigan game. Do you have thoughts on that game?
No, I just other than the stuff you've already hit on, what a good game it was, and Michigan. Michigan had the lead, then Alabama overtook the lead, and then Alabama controlled the lead for a long time, and it looked like Michigan was kind of dead in the water for a while, and then all of a sudden they just started sort of slowly building this momentum, and you're like, oh my gosh, they might score, and then they score, and then it goes to overtime, and when they scored to tie it up to go to overtime, I was like, this is theirs.
The second half they had 6 straight 3 and outs. It was subtle. It was like the whole all of the third quarter and half the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden when they needed it, they got it fairly easily, which is kind of anyway. So that was a great game. And then hold my beer, please. The next game, Washington Huskies.
The next game was good. It wasn't as good.
No, it ended thrillingly. It ended in a thriller. But get this: Washington Huskies, by the way, which if they did win. So if they beat the Michigan Wolverines, they become the first Pac-10 team to ever win a national championship in its last year of existence. Irony much? Anyway.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Because I think Washington and Michigan are going to be in the same conference now because college football is, what's the word? Completely fucked. Anyway, so Washington Huskies are beating the Texans, are beating Texas fairly easily, or straightforwardly. All of a sudden, they're winning by 6 points in the fourth quarter, and they have the ball with 1:49 left, meaning Washington has the ball with 1:49, and they proceed to call the 3 worst plays in college football history. So much so that Texas all of a sudden has the ball back with 1 minute and 42 seconds left, only 7 seconds worth of run down from. I mean, I don't know what crack these coaches are smoking. I swear to God. Anyway, I mean, take a knee. How's that for like a subtle bumper sticker on your ass? That should be a tattoo on their ass so they can remember that. Anyway, so Texas, of course, marches down the field with time left on the clock, and they get to the 12-yard line. First and 10 from the 12-yard line. 4 chances to score a touchdown and win the game to go play for the national championship. Could you imagine the heart attack after winning the entire game, the Huskies? And what does the Huskies do? The defense? They swat the ball around. They just completely shut them down. It was glorious and maddening at the same time. It was just, and then Texas, who had been lulled the whole game, all of a sudden has hope at the very end. And anyway, anything that can piss off Texas in general, I'm quite pleased with. So the point is that as I'm viewing it, 2 blue states will be playing in the national championship, which is Michigan and Washington. So that's why it makes me quite happy. Friday night, bye. Anyway, so that is happy news for me. So Michigan, by the way, is favored to win, and they should win. They're very imposing, and it'll be a great thing. One of my best friends in the world, who was a photographer, Andrew Mellick, his brother is one of the biggest patrons of Michigan football, to the point where since I've met Andrew when I was 22 years old, his brother has gone to every football game, home or away, for Michigan his whole life, and he's quite successful. So he's given like the locker room is named for him and all this stuff. He's just he bleeds blue. So for him, I'm mostly happy just for him and his family, because that's this is their whole life, the Michigan Wolverines. And they anyway. So the point is that there's people like that out there. So he's quite happy. So anyway, so that's college football. Next week it's going to be the championship game, so it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, should be a great game. I believe it's Monday night, so that actually gives us 3 nights of really solid football, because Saturday night is the Colts-Texans game, Sunday night is the Dolphins-Bills game, and then Monday night is the College National Championship. So great stuff to look forward to. RPF, what do we got? Give us the Rafa update.
Well, before Rafa, I'm going to jump into my RPF asshole meter watch.
Oh right, the one that
essentially it's a big shock.
The one that I ruined.
the one that you trampled over. Yes. And it's not a shock to people who've been following our podcast for a while, or even not for a while. Aaron Rodgers is not a favorite of ours, certainly mine. But he did something this week that was just beyond the pale. And just to recap it, on the Pat McAfee Show podcast, which Pat McAfee, by the way, his podcast is really good and lighthearted usually, and I tend to like it. Aaron Rodgers said, referring to the dead underage girl sex trafficker and rapist Jeffrey Epstein, which is basically the New York executive equivalent of Adolf Hitler, that, quote, there's a list supposed to be coming out very soon, and that there's lots of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, who are really hoping that list doesn't come out. Pat McAfee immediately changed the subject and has apologized to Kimmel for his role in this, and he was like, "What the hell?" Kimmel clapped back, as you can imagine, hard. He's on a post on X, and I want to read it because I want to make sure I get it right. He writes, "Dear asshole, for the record, I've never met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up, and we'll debate the facts further in court, motherfucker." Well said. The thing that I'll say about it is, look, we have a very casual podcast. We say things all the time, including a lot about Aaron Rodgers. That's basically clearly meant to be tongue-in-cheek, and we don't really think he's writing a manifesto. We don't think, right? But the thing is, and I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm saying, you can still not like somebody, and I'll say it clearly. I do not like Aaron Rodgers. I don't like what he stands for. I don't like what his teammates say about him. I don't like anything about him. I just don't. But doesn't mean I'm accusing him of being in a pizza parlor with Hillary and Hollywood stars drinking baby's blood either. That's absurd, right? And that's what he's essentially saying. not to imply, but to say that Jimmy Kimmel or anyone is on that list and doesn't want that list. I mean, it goes beyond sports, beyond cheekiness, beyond being irreverent or spontaneous. It's irresponsible. And I want to make sure that just on the record that I'm saying, because I would find it, I would be the first of all, and I'm capable of doing something equally boneheaded for a second, but then I'm like, oh, wait. No. That's, correct yourself. Don't double down. And that's my point. Okay, so that's my commentary for the issue, for the podcast. Now to more important things. Rafael.
Yes. Go ahead.
Rafael Nadal, as you guys have been, thank you, as Jonah has been teasing, is the update is that he's, after a full year of being hurt and being away from the sport, he came back for the first, and I've been up, and I look tired today probably because I've been up at 3 a.m. to watch his matches from Australia. He's playing a tune-up tournament in Brisbane, Australia, before he goes to Melbourne in 10 days for the Australian Open for the first Grand Slam. The first two matches he's played, the first match he played against Dominic Thiem, a former U.S. Open champion and a fantastic player, but he's also been hurt. So he's also had to have a wild card, or he had to play into the tournament to be allowed in, and he got in. And of course, his reward for winning is to play Rafa in the first round. Where Rafa looked, and I'll say this, he didn't look good. He looked great. He looked like the Rafa from 2011 when if people know tennis, he wasn't looping the ball forehand as much. He wasn't doing like the whole clay court thing where the ball goes high over the net. He was flattening the ball, driving through the ball. He had his first point. Just do this. Go on YouTube and say Rafa Nadal's first point after a year of not playing tennis. You'll sit there and go, okay, he's back. It was vintage Rafa, finishes with a wicked cross court winner. Anyway, this morning was the quarterfinal of the tournament against this Australian player. So the fans were clearly cheering their Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi chants and stuff, which is very interesting. And they were cheering for Rafa too because they love him, but they love their hometown person. Anyway, 6-1, 6-2 later, Rafa annihilated him. To the point where it was like, he didn't break a sweat. He had to go practice now after the match because he didn't get enough practice. He's that much better. He's playing better than, I'm scared to say it because, he's one tendon away from popping, from being gone. But he's using this. He knows this is his last chance, his last year. He knows he has to play at a level to be competing with, besides Djokovic, that's a whole different monster. But he has Carlos Alcaraz and Sinner and Zverev and, Medvedev and, the whole litany of people who are after him, and he doesn't know how he's playing. He's playing at that level now. So, fingers crossed. He has 2 more matches to get to the final. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so far so good. And if he stays this healthy, and he plays this well, it's going to be an epic 2024 tennis year. So that's what.
Because listen, we all love to see our sports heroes, no matter if you're, like I've mentioned before on the show, like I enjoy watching tennis, but I'm not a tennis fan per se. But
made you more of a tennis fan than you were.
Sure, but it's you see any of the greats, right? You want to see, you don't want to see them limp out of the arena. It doesn't mean that they have to necessarily win and then leave. Like they don't.
I agree.
In other words, Rafa doesn't have to necessarily win the last Grand Slam of the season and then have this like ceremonious chariot ride out into the sunset. Like no, but you do want to see him compete the entire year and just battle and just be like, that was the best I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Tiger Woods is the same way.
Right.
And that's what almost gets me emotional about Tiger Woods is it's like he comes out and he comes back and he doesn't have to necessarily win more majors. I just want to see him on Sunday battling for top 5 positions.
I want to see him in that maroon shirt on Sunday at the Masters in the hunt. It'd be fun.
with every shot has a meaning to it, and again, if he did that on his way out and never won another major, it wouldn't bother me as long as I just see him go out the way I used to watch him compete. But when he it's sad when he
plus. Yeah.
when he gets
but
up
Jack
and
Nicklaus did that. Yeah,
right, exactly. But when he gets up and he's he's limping across the course and it's just it's like, oh my gosh, it's like heartbreaking.
I just established how much I dislike Aaron Rodgers. I don't want him to go out the way he went out. I want him to come back next year, have a solid year. I want him to play. I mean, I like watching great athletes at the top of their form. Right. What he does the 21 other hours of the day is what I have a problem with. But the issue is that I want to see. I don't want to see Djokovic retire from a match when he's playing Rafa. I want Rafa to beat him. I wanted to see I love to see warriors fighting each other at the top of their game for sure. Let me end the podcast with a kind of interesting factoid. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, do it for us.
Where business and American consumerism and sports come into play. And it tells you everything you need to know. In 2023, that's this past year that just happened, in case you're wondering, 96 of the top 100 most watched TV broadcasts were football games. I'll say it again. 96 of the top 100 television broadcasts in the U.S. were football games. 93 were NFL games. 3 were NCAA games. Only the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which you can argue is basically a morning tailgate for football. Right. The State of the Union. I mean, think about that. The State of the Union with President Biden and the Academy Awards made the cut outside of football. Is that nuts, or is that just me thinking it's nuts?
No.
Yeah. Talk about hashtag football country, right? We're football crazed country. So the fact that we even talk about anything but football is kind of, it bodes well for our millions of fans.
Yeah.
But it's like out of 100 top broadcasts.
That's like I've always wanted to be, to have an excuse to be
not one basketball game.
Right. I've always had the excuse that I wanted to be a big soccer fan so that I can get all wrapped up like they do over in Europe. But turns out I don't need to. I'm an American. I just get wrapped up in football. It's done.
And thank you for bringing that up. And I'll end my portion of the podcast by saying this. We kind of been soft binging, as I call it, meaning we watch a couple episodes each night. There's 2 seasons of the show called Welcome to Wrexham. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh yeah,
I've
seen that.
Wrexham is on.
I watched the first season.
It's Ryan Reynolds. Okay, right. And the second season's, oh my God, it's so good.
Okay.
It really is basically it's a documentary by the Hollywood actor Ryan Reynolds and McAlealy, the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I get his last name wrong every single time, so I'm not even going to.
What's his first name?
Rob.
Anyway, the guy, Rob. Okay, Rob? All right, so anyway, so he's funny as hell, by the way. So Ryan Reynolds and him, and their dynamic is very, very funny. And they physically own this soccer team. And it's a bit like Ted Lasso come to life in some ways, but it's basically they own this soccer team in North Wales in this kind of working class town that lives and breathes this soccer team. That's the only thing they have going for this town. All the manufacturing left. The town is just, it's just you get to know all the characters in the town. You get to know what they bought into is like this stadium that's been the oldest stadium that's still standing in the world for soccer. It's a piece of shit. You have to kind of the cost involved. It's a whole different complicated thing about how the teams have to play they have to win a certain number of matches and be in first place to be promoted to the upper division. If not, you're relegated down. And anyway, it's this whole it sounds complicated, but it literally is a human documentary about the players, their lives, the players, the stakeholders of the team, the town, Ryan and Rob's their own relationship, and how it really matters to them. It's just, anyway, I cannot recommend this more. We came late to the party. Marco, as you know, is not a soccer fan, but he's riveted by the show. He thinks it's fantastic. So it's called Welcome to Wrexham. I believe it's on Hulu, and it's about 18 episodes per season. We're halfway through season 2. So anyway, I cannot recommend that more. So FYI.
Yes, excellent show. Welcome to Wrexham. Check it out.
If you love Ted Lasso, you will love.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. All right, that's all the time we have for the show this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a blast. We hope you did too. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, all the great platforms, as well as find us socially on Instagram and X, and of course, our dedicated YouTube channel. Just head to any of those platforms and type in the search bar, bloop, bloop, bloop. Just type in Sports of Course with Jonah and RPF, and we'll pop right up for your listening pleasure. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, tell friends, and whatever else I forgot. Hey, that's all the time we got. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week.